I'm now going to show you how to create an animation on the timeline using a folder of photographs, and these are photographs that I had compiled earlier. The first thing that you want to do is in the preferences, you want to set actually how long you want the photographs to be. Now in here it says still image duration, and this is in seconds, but you really want to set it up in frames, because that's generally how you're going to be using the program itself uses frames as its point of reference. So you can set it to 1 frame if you want very smooth. You can set it to 5 frames if you want a little bit jerkier, or if you want it 1 second each, or you could actually just put it on seconds and then you could just put in 1 second. So I've already imported the 3 different folders, and essentially you have to make a different folder for each setting that you have, otherwise the program won't import them. So what I have here, they're called BatPics, and there's BatPics copy, and then BatPics slow. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag them on the timeline. Now you can drag these directly onto the timeline. You don't have to open it up and drag them individually. So you can drag the entire folder on there, and then you'll see it actually showing up right there. And it tends to kind of disappear after a while if your files are too small. For example, like this, you'll just get kind of a black mark there. So that's one set of them, and I'm going to drop all the sets on there so you can see kind of the difference in speed. Now we need to stretch this out a little bit more. There you go, and I'll let you watch a little bit just to see what sort of speed you're getting from these. And this is from an animated bat that I made. Now that's very smooth animation, and it's fairly quick. And this one, if you want to turn that bat a little bit more into a bird, sort of the speed of a bird, but you'll notice it's a little bit more jerky. And these are 1 second each frame. Now that's a little bit too slow to be an actual useful animation, but you could use transitions between each frame to make it flow in a different sort of way, and I'll actually show you how to do that right now. But you want to kind of expand this a little bit just so I can show you what I'm doing with the transitions here. So then what we need to do is go into Effects. It's actually a separate folder that says Video Transitions. And at this point, we're going to just work with Dissolve. Now, you can try all the others on your own to see what they're like, but primarily I tend to use Cross Dissolve and Dip to Black. With this one, you don't even have to highlight it. You can just click on it and drag it in. And I think I've set these to 1 second each or something like that. Now, you can actually change the size of the dissolve just simply by double-clicking on it right here. And you could make it 2 seconds, but then you're going to actually cover the entire thing, so you don't want to do that. So once you actually have 1 dissolve in there, you can actually just take these, copy and paste. That will save you a little bit of time here, and you can just move from 1 transition point to the next. Now you have to make sure that your cursor is right between the 2 points here, and you can use these with the up and down buttons. You can move them along. So you can actually just copy and paste using Command-C and Command-V into each transition point there. Now you can actually see what it looks like. In case you have these longer images and you want to transition from one to the next, this is another way of doing it. And this is also to show you how to put transitions on. There we go. Now let's say you have a whole folder of images that are all on there for 1 second and you don't want to, or let's say you don't have the folder handy to import. You can actually take all of these, and as a group you can shorten them or lengthen them. So you can highlight the entire section here, and then you just click Command R and the timing comes up. Now, you want to make sure that the ripple edit is engaged, because if not, you're going to get a little gap between each image, and then you'll have to kind of bring them all together one at a time. But I'll actually just show you sort of the what would happen there. Okay, I'm going to bring these down to just maybe 2 frames. You go OK. And you'll see there's a great big gap between each one. So I'm just going to undo that. And then do it again and just show you what happens when you use the ripple tool there. So you click this, the ripple edit, and whenever you use the ripple edit and you do anything to a clip, it's going to draw the neighboring clips together. So with this one here, if I take all of the clips and then just turn them into, let's say, 2 frames each, it's just going to pull them all together. Okay, that is how you would actually build an animation on the timeline. It's quite simple. Now, if you've been making, let's say, drawings that you want to animate or something like claymation, you would actually go through all of the different photographs in the sequence and pick out all of the bad ones, because you don't want to do that once you actually export the video. Now, if you want to do something like blue screen or green screen or color key this, you want to export this actually as an animation, because you don't want to treat each frame individually. So what you do now is you just simply export the entire video, and then you can work it from there. So you go here into File, Export, Media, and you can either do it as QuickTime or you can do it as H64. They're both high quality videos. So we'll do it as H64. And then what you want to do is you want to just make sure that you're exporting to the right place. And this is exactly where I want it. And then you click Save, and then you click Export. And depending on how much processing you have, it can export fairly quickly or slowly. Now I'm going to show you the crop tool, which is one of the transform functions, and I'm going to make a clone of myself. So I have a folder here saying clones, and I have one thing in it, and I'm just going to drag this onto the timeline. And whenever you have this little sign coming up, unless you have a very specific sequence setting, click this that says Change Sequence Settings, and then use this as your primary settings. And it's okay. Now I'm just going to very briefly run through here, and you'll see there's a number of different chunks to it, and I'm going to chop it up right on the sequence line here. And that would be the starting point. And there's some, I'll bring this forward just into the point where I'm going to cut it, right there. And then bring it forward again. This is a little bit arbitrary, it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to get my ripple edit tool, and I'm just going to remove those parts that I didn't want. Then you see that I have 3 separate chunks, but I want to put them all together in a layering manner and use the crop tool to turn it into actually one individual video. You want to make sure that the soundtracks don't overlap here. And then I'll drag this back to the beginning here. And you'll see that I just have the top layer of the video. And now I'd like to crop it so that actually you can see all three layers, and you might be able to guess what's going to happen here. So you go into Effects, and you go down to Video Effects, and there is a tab called Transform, and so you take the crop and you drop it into the effects. Oh, I actually need to open one first. There we go. Now it's quite easy. You're just going to have to crop from the left here. So you go into the crop and you find the left toggle and you drop it down, and then you drag it along until you have revealed more of the video. Right to about there. And it's a good idea to use a little bit of feather just in case you can see a line between the two. You can't really, but whenever you overlay like this, it's a good idea to use feather. So I just give it a 2 in the feather. And then I go to the next layer here, the second layer. So you work from the top down in the cropping. And you take your crop function, you can drop it up here. And again, you work with the left because you could do it from the right. You could layer them differently. It really doesn't matter at all. But I've stacked these so that the figures show up from the left. And then you just pull the crop tool over again. And there is your worst nightmare come true. There's 3 of me there. And then you want to get rid of the excess footage here. And you can play it. With this, you in for it or not? Any ideas on it? Now you'd want to render it to make sure that it doesn't have any jerkiness or something like that. But it's quite a smooth video once you export it. And that is how you use the crop tool amongst other ways. Hey Doug, what do you think about this? You in for it or not? Any ideas on it?
I don't know.
Could be a good idea.
Whatever you
Let's
think.
think about it, okay?
All right.